Hello, beautiful people, and welcome to What Would You Miss? Today we have on a woman who has quite a long story, so we're going to try to condense it a little bit. I'm so happy to have her here. Hi, Sue.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Maybe we'll just start this off by saying, what was your first thought when you saw What Would You Miss?
That I needed to be involved, that I needed to say something.
I love that.
Yeah.
Now, tell me how you saw it, because my mind's jumbled. Did someone share it, or did you just see it in
I
your feed?
just saw it on my feed.
I love it. Why did you think you needed to be involved?
I just have a long history of mental health and struggles and surviving. And I think we need to talk more.
We do need to talk, don't we? People talk about prevention, and really the only way to prevent anything when it comes to suicidal thoughts is to talk about it. And we're so
Absolutely.
scared to talk about it. You know, we talk a lot about safe language and things that we can, bring to the table. And I think What Would You Miss really does that. It takes this really simple question, but it's so filled with so much. What would you miss if you weren't here?
My grandkids' laughter, their hands on my face telling I love you, Grandma.
Oh, I love
Things like that.
Yeah,
You
it is
know?
those little things, right, that make such a difference.
It really does.
When do you think you first realized that you were having some suicidal thoughts?
7 years old. 7 years old. I was with some friends, and we've discussed this since we've grown up, and they've told me how we would be going outside to play, and I would say, God, if I could just jump off that cliff and get it over with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can relate to that. I was probably about 8 when I started really thinking about it. And it's one thing to have the thoughts, but when we're thinking about how to do them, that takes it to the next level. That makes the risk even higher.
Right.
As you grew up, did you feel like you could rely on anybody or talk to anybody?
Not really. In my age group, the more you swept it under the rug and you ignored it, it wasn't there. So you kind of just went through the motions until the major breakdown finally happens, and you can't ignore it anymore because you've hit the wall.
Even then, though, I remember coming home from my first attempt, and they were like, "You all right? You all right? Yeah, I'm fine." That was it. We didn't really talk about it much after that.
I didn't discuss it with my family.
Yeah.
My mother told me to take a shower. You'll be okay.
Yeah.
We'll see you tomorrow morning.
It's really hard. I don't think people understand how stigmatized it really is until you're deep into it.
Absolutely.
And, the jokes that are made around suicidal thoughts and depression and anxiety just really perpetuate it. We've talked a bit on this podcast about how you watch CSI and, NCIS, all those shows, and the one who is committing the crime are people with a severe mental illness. When
Right.
reality is those are the ones usually victimized. They're not usually the person committing the crime.
Correct.
The problem is what it does to people like you and I who, live with depression and anxiety and other things. It makes us not want to talk about it because it's a joke to everybody. I've heard people flippantly say, "Oh, I could just shoot myself today," and "I wish I could just hang myself." And those are it's really intense words to talk about.
It is.
Do you know what your triggers are, and have you paid attention to them so that you can help yourself?
I do have some triggers, but mostly I think my biggest thing is trying to get people to understand that depression and anxiety, there isn't like always a trigger. It's just a daily event. This is how I am.
Right.
This is who I am. There are days where I might feel a little bit better, but sometimes I don't even know what happy is.
You're speaking my language.
Is happy this? Is this what this is?
My thing with happy, I used to have this saying was, happiness is overrated. I'm just going to live in content. Because the other part to it is when I do feel happy, I'm scared that I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop. Like
Right.
something else is going to happen because, I've had so much trauma in my life that I feel that way.
It's almost easier to handle chaos.
Absolutely. Now, you did something else, and I can tell, I don't know you personally, but you have a beautiful smile and your eyes light
you.
up a room. You probably wear your depression differently than other people, like myself. I'm, a party girl. I'm life of the party. I throw the party. I'm, everyone comes to me for everything. When I finally said, "Hey, everybody, I'm depressed. I can't take this anymore," they were like, "What?" They couldn't believe it because we've, again, stigmatized it. And depression is that person, underneath the covers, that won't leave their house. Is that relatable to you?
Yes, very much so. And that they can see when I'm having those issues, but then they continually say to me, "But what's wrong? What's wrong? What's happening? What's happening?" And there's nothing I can tell you that's happening.
Right.
There's not always a trigger. Some days it's just, God, why am I here? You know?
What are you doing to help yourself get out of those? Do you have a set of tools that you work on to?
Well, starting spring, I always try to get into the running and getting a little bit more exercise instead of staying in the house. I have a tendency recently to just not want to leave the house, not want to go anywhere.
Yeah.
And just trying to be around people that are understanding and want to just hug me.
Yeah.
You don't need to do anything, just be there. Just hug me.
Oh, that's such a beautiful point, because I
know?
think part of society's problem and part of our friends and family problem is they think they have to fix it. And sometimes it's not about fixing. It's just about putting that hand on the shoulder and saying, I'm here if you need anything.
And I love you.
Oh, beautiful.
Thank God you're here,
Yeah. Do you ever think about what your life would be like if things were different then? Because we do talk about mental health more now. So would you think things would be different if you were able to talk about it a little bit more when you were younger?
I think it would help. There's so many times people said, is mental illness environmental, hereditary? I don't know if it's one thing or both things.
Right.
But the more you discuss, the more you know, the more you help. You have the people who have addiction, and 90% of them, if not all of them, have an underlying illness.
Absolutely.
And they're not talking. They're just trying to mask their feelings and trying to get away from it all. So we need to talk. And I think had we been able to start talking when we were younger, maybe things would be different.
Right. And addiction, self-harm, they're all part of being self-destructive. And it's something that, when you're struggling with suicidal thoughts, you really do kind of play into them a little bit because you're trying to self-destruct. But nobody wakes up and decides, hey, I think I'm going to be an addict today. Or,
Right.
wakes up and says, I think I'm going to be depressed for the rest of my life. You don't wake up and say that. So you can't say to someone, snap out of it, or, come on, you're going to be okay. Take a shower, you're going to be fine.
Yep.
It's not as easy as that. You really have to use tools to help yourself get out of it, and remind yourself every day that you would be missed if you weren't here. And that's the really hard part. One thing that I talk about with this project is I lost hope. And because I lost hope, I didn't feel worthy. They go together. And a little bit of shame in there too, because you feel so shameful. We're women, so we're strong. I'm Italian, so I'm a strong Italian woman, and I have 4 kids, and I have to be strong for them. But when I'm feeling anything but, it makes me feel completely shameful that I'm feeling that. And when I start feeling that way, I lose my worth. And that's what I'm hoping What Would You Miss helps people with, is find their worth. And when you were talking just a minute ago about your grandbabies touching your face, I mean, that was so beautiful to me. And I could picture it, and I saw it in your eyes, and that was just beautiful. You're worth more than your grandbabies. You're worth so much to them.
Yeah, I like to think so.
Yeah. How old are they?
11, 9, 4, and 2.
Right. You have tears in your eyes. Is it thinking about not being here for them?
And the fact that you just don't feel that you're worth being here sometimes. That sometimes would they be better off without you?
That's where our head goes, right?
Yep, all the time.
And it's just such not the truth. I know me saying that, because I can say it right now, but you don't feel that way. You feel like they'd be better off without you. I know exactly how you feel, but the truth of it is you're worth it. You're so worth it. And I bet they love you as a grandma.
Yeah.
What are some things you do for them?
Well, we like to do vacations together. Like take them all, and then we pick on their grandfather. We had a beat-up grandpa day every day on vacation. So one day they took balloons and just bombarded them with balloons. My granddaughter, she's over more often than the other ones, but because her dad lives with us. But she just playing Barbies, just talking,
Yeah.
she's so smart. She'll just say things, and it's just amazing to just have conversations with her. I just love speaking with her.
Yeah, and you're so worth that. Like, she would miss those Barbies with you and those conversations, and they would miss beating up grandpa with you. They would miss that. If you could tell yourself something right now, your old self, that self that was 7 years old saying those things, what would you tell yourself knowing everything you know now?
I don't even know. Talk.
There you
Love
go.
yourself.
Yeah.
Talk and love yourself.
That is talking and love yourself. We just were talking about self-care, and we have this thing in our society where we think self-care is so selfish, and self-love makes you conceited and full of yourself, and it's really not. You have to love the person you are in order to give the person you are to other people, you know?
Exactly.
And your worth and your hope are all evolved in that, you know? When I first realized the things that I would miss about myself, I realized it wasn't, you know, my family and my friends and everybody. It was those things that make me who I am, singing in the car and being completely inappropriate, because I can be really
Yeah, me
inappropriate.
too. It's the best part.
Yeah, it's singing, you know, my kids' obnoxious, dirty music and making them mortified that I know all the lyrics to it. And those are things that make me unique about myself. And, you know, those things that make you unique about yourself are what make you so worth it. You know, we forget that we are worthy. And adding what you would miss to your list of tools is really a great thing to do, because I have found so much hope in myself, which I never thought I'd find before I felt completely hopeless. I hope you know that. I hope you know how worth it you are. And
I'm trying.
yeah, I remember when you messaged me about your grandbabies and how much you loved them, and you could feel it in the message. You
Yeah.
know, you were clearly meant to be a grandma.
Oh, it's better than being a mom. I hate to say that.
Because you can give them back.
And they can go home. You
Yeah.
can afford more. You know, the things you couldn't give to your kids, you can now give to your grandkids. Because the time, you know, you always had to work full time when your children were little. I did, at least.
Yeah.
So I couldn't give that time to them. I give this time to my grandkids.
So
if I can.
especially your granddaughter, the one that you're close with, what do you want for her if she's feeling this way? What would you want? What would you want her
I just
to?
want her to know that she can always talk to us. We will always be there for her. And I just want her to know that she's a beautiful human being, that she is loved, and she should love herself, because she's just a wonderful, wonderful little girl.
So I'm going to play devil's advocate right now. Sue, you know the best way to tell her that is to show her by loving yourself.
I know, and it's so hard.
Yeah, but you're doing
So
a good
hard.
job, because you're trying so hard, and I
Trying.
can tell. I can't thank you enough for sitting in the chair
Thank
with
you
me.
for having me.
One thing I try to say every now and then is, don't forget, if you are in crisis, 741-741, text that number and someone's on the other line to help you. That you're never alone. We are all going through this together, and there are so many resources out there that we need to talk about and utilize, because they're important to your day-to-day survival. So I want you to know I would miss you if you weren't here.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you for having me.
There's someone sitting in your chair. I wonder why you didn't take your seat. I look around and you're not there. And I'm the someone in